Before the first kingdom was built, before man knew his own name, the earth trembled beneath the steps of giants. Their shadows stretched across the dawn of creation. In hidden temples carved by time, their names were written upon stone. Anak, Og, Goliath, echoes of power lost to the ages. And a scribe trembled as he wrote, tales of men who walked among gods. What he saw would change the world forever. When the spies of Moses reached Hebron, they saw them, men so vast that beside them, mortals looked like grasshoppers. From the blood of Anak came warriors whose strength rivaled mountains and whose gaze could silence entire armies. They lifted stones that no human could move and played with the weight of the world as though it were nothing. Their cities rose like fortresses of the gods, towers of stone reaching toward the heavens, casting shadows upon nations. The people of Israel hid among the rocks, watching as the shadows of Anak swallowed the light of the sun. Yet even giants knelt to drink, for in their might there was still the trace of something human. When the sun set upon Hebron, the Anakim walked into legend, leaving only their footprints carved in stone. From the blood of Gath came another, a giant twisted by time, marked by 6 fingers and 6 toes, born under a dying sun. His hands bore the mark of the curse, 6 upon each hand, carved as if by the will of something beyond man. He walked alone upon the desert wind, armor cracked and eyes burning like coals. Even his shadow carried fear. Beneath the moon, the Philistines knelt before him, worshipping a monster they no longer called a man. Before the gates of Gath, he raised his sword of iron and roared. The heavens answered with thunder, and once more, a man of Israel stood against a giant. Not by size nor strength, but by courage born of faith. A single stone flew through the storm, guided not by aim, but by the hand of God himself. As the moon watched, the cursed giant fell. His eyes faded into silence, and his name was lost to dust. In the valley of Elah, 2 armies stood face to face, Israel trembling in silence, and the Philistines roaring with pride. Then he came, Goliath of Gath, the giant of bronze and blood. Each step he took made the earth remember his name. For 40 days he mocked the people of God, daring any man to face him. None answered, for who could stand against a mountain? And from among them came a boy, no armor, no sword, only faith. His name was David. He raised his sling, and heaven held its breath. The stone left his hand like a whisper of divine will. One strike, one sound, and the giant fell. His pride shattered before the eyes of all men. The valley trembled, the dust rose, and for the first time, the Philistines knew fear. David stood upon the fallen giant, lifting his sword to the heavens. Strength had fallen, and faith had risen. Beyond the desert of Jordan lay Bashan, a kingdom of stone and iron, ruled by a giant whose name made men tremble. From the walls of his fortress, King Og watched the army of Israel approach, his armor blazing like the sun, his silence heavier than thunder. Within his palace of black stone stood a bed of iron, longer than 4 meters, wide enough for fear itself to rest. He rode forth upon a chariot drawn by beasts of the wild, his shadow swallowing the battlefield, his presence a storm. When he struck, the ground itself screamed, the sky shook, and men fled like leaves before the wind. But from a distant hill, Moses raised his staff, and light from heaven fell upon the field like the breath of God. The giant knelt, his weapon slipping from his hand. The light pierced his heart, and Bashan fell into silence. At sunrise, the people of Israel lifted their eyes to the heavens. For it was not strength that won the day, but faith. From the heavens they descended, sons of God clothed in light, burning with desire for the daughters of men. And in their embrace, heaven and earth became one. But what was born that night was not meant to be. Thus came the Nephilim, children of angels and mortals, giants of golden flesh and hearts that reached for heaven. They ruled the mountains and the seas, their voices louder than storms, their shadows stretching across kingdoms. With their hands they built cities that touched the clouds, and men bowed before them as before gods. But power without faith breeds ruin. Pride devoured the Nephilim, and the earth cried out beneath their wars. Then the heavens opened, and God looked upon the corruption of his creation. The flood was his answer. Waters rose, mountains vanished, and the Nephilim fell into silence. The world was cleansed, and the age of giants was no more. When the waters withdrew, silence covered the earth. Only their footprints remained, carved deep into stone, whispering of the giants that once were. And man, small yet chosen, lifted his eyes to the heavens. He spoke not in fear, but in faith, for he remembered. Then came the light, and for a moment, the shadows of the 5 giants stood once more. Not as rulers, but as memories written by God himself.